All right, welcome back, everybody. Today, it has been 1 month since my book came out, and I've learned some things, and I want to talk to you about them today. We're going to talk about the things I learned not to do, the things that I learned or worked for me at least, and we're gonna, hopefully let you get on your way with your own publication date soon enough. It's going to be a hurry up and wait kind of situation when you start. So you've been patient, through the process of marketing and preparing and getting ready for publication date. Now that you are beyond publication date, you're going to be waiting a little bit longer for some results. Not to say that you won't get immediate results in some ways, but there may not be as big as you hope or dream. Um, we're self-publishers. We're not likely to end up on the New York Times bestseller list at the beginning. I want you to think kind of in the blockbuster versus cult classic. A blockbuster comes out with a huge hit and then trickles downward into like every week it is less and less people going to see it until eventually it goes out on digital now. That's going to be our equivalent of paperback. For us, it's the opposite. It's that movie that is a sleeper that like starts off in one place and then by word of mouth someone goes, oh yeah, and it gets bigger once it goes on digital because people can go see it. That's our again like our paperback. So right now you're in that initial release. You're building buzz. That is the important thing right now, is that you're trying to you want to sell what you can sell, obviously, but you also want to realize that this part of the process, this beginning month, is not where you're going to make the bulk of your sales. It's going to be where you're going to start allowing people to kind of take it and run, and spread the word for you and become your advocates. So I'll give you some numbers really quickly on things that on the results that I had this month. So I sold 11 copies online, and then I sold 3 at book fairs. I ran a free program, for a free promo on Amazon for the digital ebooks, and 375 people downloaded it. So I sold 14 copies, and I had 375 people download copies. So between that and copies I gave away to ARC readers and everything else, about almost 500 people have my book, and I have 8 reviews. So now is the waiting game, right? So I'm gonna get more reviews, and it's gonna build. I just have to be patient because as much as I'm in a rush for people to read it, it doesn't mean everyone else is in a rush just because they have it. So keep that in mind. I received 3 Amazon ratings and 2 reviews since publication date. Um, and I'm gonna like for that I want to like kind of talk about. So like I just mentioned that I have 8 reviews overall. That's on Goodreads, with 12 ratings. Um, Most of those have been pre-publication from ARC readers, but now I have 3 Goodreads reviews that have come out since publication date. And what I consider maybe the most exciting or biggest success in some ways, 2 bookstores are carrying my book now. If you're in the Raleigh area, you can go to Quail Ridge Books and get a copy, or you can go to So and So Books and get a copy. Both are great. Quail Ridge is a little bit bigger and well known, I think, in the area, but So and So is in a really cool section of Raleigh, and I thought it was really. I don't want to sound condescending. I think it was an adorable shop, so you can go there and check it out. It's a smaller storefront, but it's really cool. All right, so like I said, these aren't the numbers that are going to give me New York Times bestseller list, and there are ways to kind of like manipulate things, but I'm not interested in manipulating things. I'm interested in actually getting things going, right? So these are genuine, honest numbers. I think these are numbers that will help me have genuine, honest growth. All right. So learning. I mentioned book fairs. So I've done a book fair. I've done a not a book fair, but like a market. I talked about that a little bit 2 weeks ago. Um, and I learned some things from those. And I'm doing another book fair this weekend. But one of the big things I learned was you can kind of A/B test if you're not into marketing. That's where you test one thing and then you test another thing and you see which of the two works better. I was able to accidentally A/B test pitch lines for my book. So I had started off talking to people about, my book is about purity culture and a young man torn between, these two different things. And um, the response that I got from people was either a look of boredom or a look of discomfort. I mean, you look at me, and maybe if you're approaching me at a farmer's market or a book market, you don't want to talk about purity culture with this guy. So I realized quickly, and I changed my direction, and I came up with a very simple and quick pitch that was getting a very different result. So what I started saying to people was, my book's about a guy and his fiance who get ambushed at a dinner party by his ex-girlfriends, and immediately people were not bored. Nobody was bored by this. There was maybe some discomfort still, but it wasn't that like discomfort with having the conversation with me. It was that discomfort in a, oh, that's kind of a creepy feeling that that guy's got to have, right? And so like it was that discomfort that you want if you're writing a thriller or a horror or something along those lines. My book isn't necessarily that, but that discomfort is good in some ways. It's the same discomfort as like the cringe in a movie like the 40-year-old virgin, when you're like, oh, that's not the right thing to say. So there is some good in that discomfort, and I got a lot more people interested in having a conversation with me at that point. Something else that I learned from the book fairs is about price point. um, People would have conversations with me, a good amount of conversations, talk about the dinner party, ask about it, seem interested, and then they would see that the price point was $27.99, which for a hardcover is what I needed to charge in order to be able to break even basically on my book. And so that was too much for a lot of people. People want to support, so some people did buy my paperback version of my older book, which is just a collection of short stories, poems, and essays. That was $9.99, so it was easier to commit to for an author that they haven't read from before, and um, but that is something I learned, is that maybe, and this may be something important for you if you haven't committed to a hardcover yet for yourself. Maybe for your first book, you consider going paperback. I think that I probably would have made more sales if I had gone paperback. I have 90 something copies of my book that I bought, for all the different shows I'm doing. So I'm going to wait a little bit longer before going paperback, because I want to, try selling out of those. Um, but yeah, something I learned was that if you can make it cheaper for them, you're going to make it easier for people to commit or to support you without having to feel like they're investing more than they necessarily are comfortable doing. Um, the last thing I learned, and I talked about this a bit last week, but just because I didn't sell to everybody I talked to doesn't mean that they're not buying. It just means that they're not buying yet, or they're not buying this. So I handed out a lot of bookmarks with my QR code on them, where they can find all the information that will help them either find it at the library if they want to, or they can buy the digital copy, which is only $2.99. That's a much less expensive way for them to help support, or to read the book if they were interested. Um, and so that there's all of that. I also was able to get email addresses, so there I have a newsletter, and when I come with my next book, maybe people will be a little more interested, or if I have some big if I win an award or whatever. I don't know, that I'm not even entering in right now to anything, but if something happens that's big newsworthy thing to include in my newsletter, then maybe those people will be like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. And they'll be more interested in buying. So, um, Yeah, so it's, all about building connections. That's what kind of this whole process has been. I know we're talking about writing books, and that seems like such an introverted thing, but building connections is really important. All right, so kind of lastly, it's important you want to like stick to it. It sounds so cliche, I know, but ultimately, you're talking about something that isn't going to happen overnight, and you got to kind of just keep plugging away at it. Um, it's not easy. It's going to be, especially if you're introverted, just you you're going to be you've put yourself out there by writing this book. You put yourself out there by deciding to publish this book. Now it's time to put yourself out there and just talk about this book. When if you're in a conversation and someone says, "Oh, what do you do?" or if it's somebody you already know and they're like, "Oh, what have you been up to lately?" At a family Christmas, or if, Christmas is coming up, or a family reunion or something. Well, what have you been up to the last year or whatever? I wrote a book. Is it going to be awkward? Possibly. I can guarantee you this: my book to talk to family about is probably as awkward as it's going to get. My book's all about sex, and it is. And I will say that my mother read it. My father-in-law has read it. Like it's not something that you can't shy away. You gotta just kind of have to talk to everybody and say, yeah, I wrote this book, and let them know what it is, and it may be for them, it may not be for them, but I've by talking to my mom has let all of her friends know that I wrote a book, and my father-in-law, I'm sure he has talked to his brother about it, and my sister told a bunch of her friends, although my sister hasn't read the book yet. Uh, she told a bunch of her friends, they're like, "Oh, look at this review my brother got," and word of mouth's going to be huge to get you started. I said it a few weeks ago when I did the video about getting ARC reviews and reviews. People are going to assume for a little while that everything you get is someone you know. So that's kind of why it's important to start building up those numbers. Because yeah, I might get like five or six people, five or six friends to review it and give it good reviews. But if it has 30 or 40, all of a sudden, even if I'm from an Italian family, I have 30 or 40 people I could kind of call on potentially. And I will tell you this, people aren't going to look at 30 or 40 reviews and say, hey, that guy is just getting his family. Like, no, they're going to start thinking that there is some legitimacy to it. That's part of this. That's part of the steadfastness of just sticking with your process. Again, I mentioned the blockbuster versus cult classic, and that is another thing about sticking with it is you just got to keep talking about it. If you've written something good, that's obviously helpful. But while you're talking about it, if you're passionate and you're talking about it, people will be passionate and talk about it as well. Like, oh, I saw Mike the other day. He wrote a book. That's pretty cool. Uh, and people will just keep talking and just you don't want to inundate, you don't want to like overwhelm people with it, you don't want it to be your only focus, but anytime that it naturally comes up, let it come up. So that's what I think you can do best for yourself. And then like I've said before, it doesn't hurt to ask. Go talk to bookstores. I personally like going into bookstores anyway, so I'm going into half these places, and when I'm there, I say, hey, do you have anything for independent authors? I've looked on some websites and found out how you like submit to some of these places, and yeah, so I've submitted to some bookstores. I've gotten two yeses so far. Hopefully it'll be more. Hopefully there's two or three other local ones that I'm hoping to get into. And slowly but surely you just kind of build up that network. Also, what you're doing is you're laying the groundwork for book number two if you decide you want to write a second book. Um, so I think that you just gotta stay with it. All right, next time, I just mentioned it a second ago. Book number two, but I want to talk about filling your catalog. One of the keys that I'm learning here is that A single book's not going to make you a living typically when you're self-publishing. Not to say you couldn't strike gold, but it's unlikely that, even among traditional published books, how many authors were making a living off of a single book. Can you name one that published in the last 30 years? I don't know that I can. Um, so I think that building your catalog out is and that doesn't just mean books. It just means making yourself available, so that you have things for people to read. If you haven't already, please hit like and subscribe. I'm doing one of these every week, other than holidays. I skip holiday weeks. I'm doing one of these every week, to let you know where I'm at in the process of self-publishing. I'm happy to cover other topics if they come up, if anybody asks about them. But I'm learning a lot, and I think you can learn from my mistakes and my successes, and I'm hoping that you do. And yeah, liking and subscribing will help me to help you.